Will Smith, superstar of the modern blockbuster, has worn many faces on screen. The fearless pilot who saves the planet in Independence. The Men in Black suited sentinel against the strange and unseen, and the exhausted, determined father who reduced audiences to tears in the pursuit of happiness, with charisma to spare, a kinetic presence, and an emotional range that could trigger laughter one moment and heartbreak the next. He rose into the small circle of Hollywood's most bankable, beloved legends. For years, he stood like a pillar in popular culture, as an emblem of what confidence, talent, and relentless drive could accomplish. He began as a young rapper trying to outrun the limits of West Philadelphia, and he rewrote his future till his name resonated across the globe. Yet the gleam of that legacy hides a harsher truth. Behind the accolades lies a private history marked by betrayal, regret, and pain that fame could never fully silence. The public saw the megawatt smile. Few sensed the weight settled behind it, the private griefs, the old injuries that would not let go. His story is overflowing with triumph, but also pierced by storms and losses that ask a difficult question. Can a brilliant light survive the darkness that follows it? If you believe Will Smith is one of the rare talents of our era, consider this a tribute to a man who kept delivering joy while carrying burdens most never knew. The first chapter is not one of spectacle, but of fear. Willard Carroll Smith Jr., born September 25, 1968 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was the second of 4 children. Older sister Pamela, and twins Harry and Ellen, his father. Willard Smith, Sr., was a refrigeration engineer. Long days, the smell of oil and metal. His mother, Caroline Bright, a steady school administrator, believed in books, order, and quiet strength. On paper, the family looked secure, middle class in the Winfield neighborhood. But safety on paper is not safety in the soul. Will's father commanded respect, and at times inspired fear. His mother embodied a calmer kind of discipline, the kind that teaches rather than strikes. The marriage carried a hidden fault line, and when it broke, it shattered a child's trust. At 9 years old, Will watched frozen as violence fell upon his mother. In his memoir, he wrote of the shame that stamped him that night. He believed himself a coward because he did nothing. The man he admired became the man who hurt someone he loved. The son's admiration tangled into guilt and silence. That wound followed him for decades. The Smiths were not poor, and the neighborhood was comparatively safe. But comfort can erase fear. Not poor, yet never truly safe. That's the paradox of his childhood. Will turned to 2 lifelines. The warm glow of TV and the pulse of hip-hop. He discovered a shield humor. If he could keep people laughing, maybe the ground would stop shaking. Performance became protection, and the famous smile began as armor. As Will grew older, the crack widened. His parents separated during his teens. Their divorce was finalized in 2000, long after he'd become a household name. He'd lived with his mother, who never remarried. He later admitted, "Everything I've built, everything I've done comes from trying to protect my mother." Behind each success stood the same 9-year-old boy, still trying to rewrite a night he could never forget. His career began with promise and a bruise. In the mid-1980s, a teenager with boundless energy teamed up with childhood friend Jeffrey Towns, DJ Jazzy Jeff, as DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. They brought cheerful, family-friendly rap into the mainstream. Parents approved. Kids loved it. At 20, Will tasted a dream coming true, but whispers followed. Hardcore rappers dismissed him as soft. Critics called the music too commercial. The sting sharpened in 1989 when the duo won the first ever Grammy for Best Rap Performance for Parents. Just don't understand. It should have been a coronation. Instead, leading rap artists boycotted. Angry the Rap Award wouldn't air on TV. He held history in his hands, but the room felt empty. The smile stayed. The respect did not. Success delivered money, and money spun its trap. By 21, wealth poured in. Cars, jewelry, parties. He was too young to realize that money without discipline is a flood. The IRS did not forget. In the early 1990s, he was suddenly drowning in back taxes. The cars vanished. The accounts dried up. The phone calls changed tone. I had a hit record, a Grammy, he said later. And then suddenly, I was broke. Flat broke. The lesson cut deep. Talent may open doors, but without control, those doors slam shut. Then fate intervened. In 1990, at the edge of collapse, he found himself at a party with Quincy Jones. Quincy asked him to audition right there. No script, no rehearsal for a sitcom that didn't yet feel real. Will hesitated. Quincy insisted, "Do it now." He did. A living room turned into a stage. Nerves became momentum. In minutes, everyone knew he had the part. Overnight, the bankrupt rapper became the face of a new cultural landmark, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It wasn't just a second chance. It was a resurrection. The 1990s lifted him into the stratosphere. Bad Boys lit the fuse. Independence Day made him Earth's savior. Men in Black etched him into global pop culture. To the world, he looked untouchable, funny, brave, a perpetual hero. But fame can become a cage. The public demanded flawlessness. Always charming, always upbeat. Some critics sneered he was too polished, too manufactured. I felt like no matter what I did, he said later, people only saw the image, not the person. That invisibility amid all the attention was its own kind of punishment. To prove his depth, he stepped into roles that tested body and spirit. Ali, 2001, demanded almost superhuman preparation. He chased Muhammad Ali's cadence, trained until his body throbbed, and lived inside a legend's burden. The work brought an Academy Award nomination and left him nearly emptied out. The applause was real. The cost was too. Then came The Pursuit of Happiness, 2006. As Chris Gardner, the desperate father trying to keep hope alive, Will wasn't only acting. He was revisiting a promise forged at 9. His children would never live what he had lived. The tears on screen carried memory. Another Oscar nomination followed, but the film gave him something larger, a measure of healing. Yet, regrets formed their own shadow. He turned down Neo in The Matrix, a decision that haunted him as the film reshaped cinema. He passed on Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, unwilling to embrace its violence, then watched another actor claim the role's glory. "I've made bad choices," he admitted. "Sometimes I wonder what might have been." Redemption arrived with King Richard 2021, as Richard Williams. Father to Venus and Serena, he played a flawed, fiercely protective parent. Part strategist, part shield. The performance felt like a mirror, a man determined to guard his family from the world's storm. In 2022, when his name was called for Best Actor, it was more than validation. It felt like culmination. For one night, the world seemed to see not only the star, but the man. Then, in seconds, everything tilted. On March 27, 2022, the night of his greatest professional triumph, a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith ignited a fuse. Will Rose walked to the stage and struck Chris Rock. The sound cracked through the theater. Shock followed. The room fell silent. What should have been a crowning moment turned into a defining wound. The Academy barred him from its events for 10 years. He resigned his membership. Projects paused. Decades of goodwill dimmed behind a single act. Afterward came a heavy quiet. He described it as a scar for life. Nights blurred. Questions circled. Why didn't I stop? How did I let it happen? He carried a private shame, knowing the hurt reached far beyond one man. It touched a friend, peers, fans, and himself. The crown he had chased now felt like a weight. Still, he didn't hide. He apologized again and again, publicly and directly. The swagger was gone. Humility remained. "I was wrong," he said. "I hurt people, and I regret it deeply." Apologies cannot erase a moment, but they can begin an honest reckoning. The lesson, harsh and simple, echoed far beyond one star. Self-control outranks any crown. Mastery of the self matters more than mastery of the stage. To understand how his heart reached that boiling point, you have to wind back to love and family. the arena where his deepest vows and hardest failures lived. In 1992, at the height of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he married Cherie Zampino. That same year, their son Trey was born, and Will felt a kind of joy that eclipsed trophies. He promised himself the cycle of broken homes would end with him. But fame has a way of moving into a marriage uninvited. Long days, constant travel, and an industry that devours time strained a young union. By 1995, just 3 years later, they divorced. For Will, it felt like the ultimate failure. Replaying the pain he had known as a boy, the hardest part was the distance with Trey. The small ways trust frayed. The long work of rebuilding. Over time, with presence and patience, father and son found their way back quietly without cameras. The scar remained. The bond held. In 1997, he married Jada Pinkett Smith, a force of nature, brilliant, independent, impossibly direct. Their family grew. Jaden arrived in 1998. Willow in 2000. For a while there was the ordinary joy that fame can't counterfeit. Wobbly first steps, bedtime singing, the warmth of a shared table. Jada challenged him to evolve. He challenged her to dream bigger. But strong personalities, public scrutiny, and different needs can rub like sandpaper. Rumors about an open marriage swirled. In 2020, Jada described an entanglement that occurred during a separation. The word went viral. The pain was real. Later, the public learned they had lived apart since.